18th episode of CloudFocus Weekly for the third week in November 2010. This episode is still entitled Social Rocker. CloudFocus Weekly is sponsored by Arkus, your cloud computing experts. I'm your host, Jason Atwood, and joining me is the co-host, Justin Edelstein. How are you today, Justin?
I'm all right. The reason why you said still entitled is because that was your third take.
Third take on the old podcast.
Third take.
The throat's a little rough. I think I had a little cold over the weekend. Going to try to break through it today for our CloudFocus.
Make sure you have plenty of liquids.
I'm going to do that. Got a big agenda today. I'm going to talk about EU providing some money to IBM and others for some cloud research. I'm going to talk about 5 ways that Google will disrupt web analytics, which is a blog post on Read Write Web. Kind of interesting stuff.
What about Google TV, yeah?
Google TV, yes. It's not going to be a good podcast.
Cool.
Not going to try a fourth start. And then Microsoft published a white paper on the economics of the cloud, which we have a few things we want to pull out of and talk about. Basically, the private cloud conundrum, something we've touched on before, but we can go back and touch on again. And then got our invites to the Rock Melt social browser. Talk about what that means and how it works. But let's start off with the EU, providing $21 million to grant IBM to do some research on the cloud and how they can make it better, or IBM and I guess the think tanks that are IBM to make it better. Did you read the article? What do you think?
I did. It's not a very large article. It's kind of a short article. A project that is being called Vision Cloud. And essentially, its job or its focus, the reason why they're getting this grant, is to tackle some storage issues, the ability to run apps within different cloud environments and cloud storage environments, and how to do proper governance and access permissions around cloud applications. So it's an interesting study that, it's always interesting when a government is funding a study on anything, particularly cloud computing. $21 million, not a whole lot of money in the scheme of things, to be honest.
For a study? $21 million?
I honestly don't think that's actually a lot of money in the scheme of things. Of what governments pay for all sorts of studies of all different types of things. It's a lot of money in the context of go study cloud computing, but it's not a whole lot of money in the scheme of what governments pay to do studies on things.
How many kids could you put through college to go study cloud computing for $21 million?
6.
I think it's interesting. The things that they're brought... Here's what I don't get about paying $21 million for a study.
Tell me.
What do you get out of it? At the end of the $21 million, you get a bunch of people to sit around and say, well, the way to do it is X or Y.
Get a bunch of paper.
Well, yeah. And in our experience with those types of papers, and we both worked at a firm that paid a lot of money for studies, I'm air quoting, and would come back with, actually, chunks of this type of money, and would come back with paper, these huge, thick binders, which would gather dust. No one would ever read them. And, is that the way that the software development of the future is going to happen or be funded or be inspired by $20 million worth of studies and think tanks?
Well, hopefully they'll produce some worthwhile proofs of concept and worthwhile, while they're doing their studies, they're actually touching and playing as opposed to just writing papers. I mean, they have to get in there, get their hands dirty, and see what things can do. So I imagine that there'll be more than just a deliverable of here's a stack of 600 pages in a binder. It'll likely be a deliverable of a stack of 600 pages in a binder plus a couple of real-life working scenarios that could potentially help to do certain things that are in the public good, right? So how could you improve education using the cloud? How could you improve transportation in the by using cloud applications to measure certain things? Anything that sort of has anything to do with what the government might be responsible for, how can you make the government more efficient using cloud technologies? That's what I'm hoping it's for. There's not a whole lot of meat to this article. It's more of a couple paragraphs here, but it does say something that they're getting, $21.4 million to study the cloud.
Yeah, it's a lot of money to look up in the sky.
It's a lot of money.
Let's move on. Next article came off of Read Write Web, and it was...
We like Read Write Web.
Yeah, they have a good cloud section, so if you want to go to readwriteweb.com/cloud, that's right after you went to blog.arkusinc.com. And basically, it's a quick article. I think it actually, they say 5 ways, but I think 3 of them are overlap each other. But it's... Okay, so Google TV is going to hit the market soon. There's one TV that's out. You can buy it as a separate standalone. I'm not hearing a lot of waves about, oh, I just got my new Google TV.
Did you just say Wave?
Oh,
Google Wave?
Oh, we're going to have a wave-free podcast.
No, we're not.
No, it's not going to happen. But basically, since the internet and the TV are now connected, meaning that at any one time I can pop into the internet browser, I can go to Google, I go to all these different internet things and then
Widgets
applications
and apps, right?
I can stream stuff, and then I can go back to regular TV at the same time. He's saying that it'll disrupt basically web analytics, so the traditional going to browsers, going to websites and things being loaded. I think the more interesting thing is that it'll disrupt TV watching analytics, not web analytics, because web analytics will be captured as soon as the Google TV uses Chrome to go find some piece of content. That's captured at some server somewhere in some log. I know, I've done this stuff for too long. I think the TV watching thing becomes interesting. So if I have my if I have my NFL game in the corner, right, captured in the corner, and I'm watching it, but I also am off here surfing and posting on a website, a forum or something, or doing Twitter. Twitter's going to capture that I'm doing Twitter. But is TV going to capture that I'm not really doing TV?
Well, I think what the article actually points to is more around advertising dollars and catching those conversions, right? Because if I'm on my browser on my laptop and I'm on a website and there is an ad and I click it and then I buy something, I have clicked that ad from that website. I have then purchased it. Therefore, there's your conversion there, and you can do all sorts of numbers on that. But what if I'm on my TV and it's a commercial, I pop out, look at something, oh, there's something interesting. I'm interested in that. I want to purchase it. But my TV show's back on. So I pop back to my TV show. My laptop's right next to me on my lap. And I pop in and buy that thing. There's no one-to-one connection on that actual conversion, that I saw the thing on the internet, but it was actually on my television, and then I didn't feel like buying it through my TV, and then I went and bought it somewhere else. There actually is a big marketing disconnect there.
But it's the same disconnect that's always been there for TV, which is I'm sitting there watching TV and I see an ad for an Audi, and I go log into my website. I'm sitting on my iPhone, my iPad, or my laptop in my lap, and I surf to Audi.com.
But this is different because I actually found the thing while surfing the web in one place, and then bought it while surfing the web in another place.
Happens all the time. I look at stuff on my iPhone all the time that I want to buy, and I go right over to the computer and buy it.
That is an impact from another device actually impacting web analytics. This is asking the same question. Yeah. How does the television impact the same scenario, right? It's the same exact scenario.
I'm more interested in how it shows if TV, are they going to be able to split and show, is Google TV going to capture and publish that I am sort of half watching and half not watching? Right now it's lost. If I'm sitting with my laptop in my lap watching some TV show, the TV show, in theory, right, DirecTV or TiVo or Comcast, in theory they know exactly what I'm watching. They think I'm watching that show. But I could be...
They don't know that.
Well, some of them do. TiVo does. Some services actually publish your data back. In the theory, they're going to go towards... They should, because that'll actually make better programming as opposed to having Nielsen families or Nielsen
What do you mean?
families.
Those blue books aren't accurate?
No, they're not accurate. So, but then, is it capturing my attention, And does this help capture attention? Anyway, I don't know. I'm not totally sold on Google TV. I haven't used it yet. The new ad that's around all the time with the
Sony one
with the big... I don't want to use that. I look at that thing and I just want to throw up.
It's like a keyboard.
It looks like a PS3 remote with or PS3.
But it's
game
a keyboard.
Control. I know, but I don't.
I'm interested. I want to go look at some of them during this Christmas season, this holiday season, if you will. I want to go check them out and see what they're all about. I want to play with one.
I want you to report back.
I most certainly will. I'll consider it work for the podcast.
All right. So then, second to last is the Microsoft white paper, which neither of us got all the way through.
It's very hard. It was 22 pages. That's a lot of pages for a white paper.
It's a long white paper.
Although I've seen much, much longer.
Published by Microsoft, talking about the economics of the cloud. And it was pro-cloud, from what we gathered.
Pro-public cloud.
Pro-public cloud, sort of not anti, but sort of squashing some theories on the private cloud. So for those...
Which is weird, because they have commercials out for the private cloud.
And this is why I think it's interesting. This is why I brought this article into today, because I tweeted yesterday that I was very sick of seeing the Microsoft ad, and I think we mentioned this on one of the other podcasts.
To the cloud.
To the cloud.
Batman, to the cloud.
To the cloud. And which had nothing to do with the cloud.
Yeah, but that's one commercial. They have another commercial that is more geared towards, enterprise IT employees, and it talks about, moving to the clouds, and I have my own personal cloud, and I have this cloud, and they mentioned, private clouds a couple different times, like choice and private cloud and public cloud.
Yeah. At the end of the day, the article, the PDF points out a couple things. It's not the PDF. The white paper points out a couple things about the cost structure of private versus public. And I think just to set the stage, we consider things that are public clouds something that multiple people can use, multi-tenancy, right? That lots of different organizations who have no affiliation other than they're using the same service. So Google, Salesforce, MobileMe, whatever. You have tons of different people. And the reason that it has a lower cost is because it's up to the cloud provider to make sure that they are utilizing the right amount. If they're good, then they're at the right utilization level and everybody's sharing that infrastructure. Private clouds is the idea you take the virtualization software, some of the things that make the technology behind cloud computing, and you put it into your own data center, sort of replicating what they've done, put it in your own data center. But the article even showed, or the white paper even proved that it was 10 times more expensive because you're not sharing the resources. So that's sort of the thing about private clouds, is that I know that an organization, a big organization, could create their own private cloud in their own data center, but would they be able to utilize it? Would they be able to build it out and switch it on at the speed of which I could do it by using a public cloud?
I've never actually understood the notion of a private cloud.
It's just taking the technology. So I'll give you an example. So we talk about Salesforce a lot. I'll use Salesforce and Google together. So let's say you wanted to use the Google apps and Salesforce, right?
Go on.
You're interested?
Go on.
Okay.
Sell me.
But I cannot use their public cloud. I cannot use their pods, and I don't know what Salesforce has things called pods, which are
and the Google data center.
Data center, right? Can't use it because security concerns, IT concerns, blah 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 blah.
I get it.
I say to them, can I take all of your software, all of your virtualization, all of your techniques, all of your networking, all the things that you do to make that stuff so powerful, and I'm going to build it inside my data center.
I get all that.
That's a private cloud.
I get it. But why I guess this is a marketing tactic. Why call that a private cloud when it actually is just software on your own hardware?
Because
isn't that just traditional?
No, because they're using the technology. Because again, cloud isn't just internet, right? Having a server in Rackspace in a Rackspace data center is just a hosted server. Cloud is about the virtualization of the servers and about the software that runs the servers, and that they are all in this nebulous that you don't have to worry about one or any server. So that's what Google and others have done well.
Does a private cloud have things like the upgrades and things of that nature, or do you have to manage that yourself?
Well,
how does it upgrade itself?
Don't know, but
I don't understand. I don't necessarily understand the ethos or the.
If you were an organization big enough, you could build a private cloud. You could build the software on the private cloud. You could have different departments use it.
And why is that just not a data center?
It is, but you're giving it. You're using the technologies, the virtualization technologies that are inherent to cloud computing inside your data center, as opposed to what they're using today. And you could run it like a cloud, like a public cloud, meaning You don't just do what people want. You keep updating it. Everybody's on the same version. You could do all of that internally. Again, I think it's a word.
Cloud in a box.
Cloud in a box. So, I mean, I get it from where the people who are building the server centers want to do, because they can use cloud computing, which everybody's talking about, and they can put it,
including us,
and they can put it in front of their thing that they're building inside the data center. I do think that it is a little bit not
it's a little hokey.
Well,
it's a little marketing-y.
If you think that one of the tenancies or one of the tenets of cloud computing is multi-tenancy, then yes, because that's not multi-tenant. It's one tenant because it's one organization. So then you could throw it that way. But other people say, well, multi-tenancy isn't the only thing. Or multi-tenancy could be multiple departments. Think of a company that has 300,000 employees.
Multiple lines of business.
Yes. Right. So if 300,000 employees are all using a private cloud and it's all multi-tenant and they're up on the same version and it's rolled out and it's virtualized, is it a private cloud at that point? Maybe it's run by...
I think it's just good internal architecture.
Maybe it's run by... Maybe it's run by Google. So maybe Google runs that private cloud.
Slice off a little provision of their data center and say, this little thing is yours.
Yep.
We'll manage it for you.
Or you build it, we put our software on it, and we manage the software on it. You manage the hardware, and you'll stay on our version. So when we push a new version of Gmail out to everybody in the world, you get it too. But it's all inside your server.
Sort of defeats the purpose.
Well, sort of half defeats the purpose because it's your servers.
Well, the article also talks about security, and I have to feel like public clouds make a lot of headway when it comes to security, and we always like to talk about multi-tenancy being a big part of that security, because if you have multiple tenants, and some of those tenants are some of the most regulated government agencies and financial institutions and medical institutions and of the like, they have some of the most stringent security requirements around. And if it meets all of those, then you, Mr. Small Business, get the security of all the different requirements of all those different tenants that are in your environment. And same goes for Mr. Big Company, who has 200,000 employees. It's not like you don't have to worry about security, but you can breathe easy knowing that it meets the requirements of some of the most secure agencies in the world.
Except for if your requirements, because you're Mr. Big Agency, don't meet those requirements. Meaning your requirements are harder. And
if you're Mr. Big Agency and you have 200,000 employees, you may have a say and you may be able to push and pull.
Well, if one of your security requirements is that no data shall live outside of our data centers, done. Yeah. All right. So our last topic, a little bit more fun.
You're fooling yourself if you think it's more secure in your own data center, though.
Well, that's true. We've known tapes to fall off the end of trucks or not get delivered by FedEx. It happens more often than you think. Last thing's a little bit more fun, not as controversial, if you will. The new social browser that came out based on Chrome, that is I guess the concept for it came out a couple weeks ago. I signed up for the preview. It's called Rock Melt. I'm not crazy about the name.
What does it mean? You're melting rocks?
I don't know.
Lava?
It could be lava.
Should we call it lava?
And what it is, so it's based on Chrome, and it's supposed to be a social browser. Now, we've seen social browsers before.
In
fact,
Flock.
Flock was...
I remember Flock. I was a big beta user of Flock.
It was based on, I think, Mozilla.
It was Firefox.
And it had a lot of integrations. You could do stuff.
Flickr, Delicious, all the Web 2.0 darlings.
Yeah. All built in. Now, this is...
all built in.
This is the social. This is the social side. So, for those of you who haven't... I think it's rockmelt.com. It is based on Chrome, so it looks very much like Chrome. But the difference is that when you log into it, when you first start it up, it says to you, can I log into your Facebook account? And you have to say yes. So there's first concern if you're concerned about that, although you probably log into your Facebook account from cafes in Brazil or wherever you're traveling.
Apple Store.
So if you're really concerned, you shouldn't be doing that. But so then you log in. It then reads a bunch of stuff and then creates what I would consider sort of two sides
like
to your
drawers,
yeah.
right? Like these drawers or side panels, right?
To your browsing experience. So in the center, you have traditional browsing experience, right? You have your URLs, you have your tabs, you have your search, you have your everything looks very much the same.
Bookmarks, all that stuff.
On one side, the only little difference is you have this share instead of like a go button. There's a share button. It basically will pop you into sharing wherever you are.
Did it pull your bookmarks in from somewhere?
Yep, right from Safari.
Did you tell it? You said
it
pull it from here.
And then on one side, it pulls in your Facebook people, where you can either see kind of a list of all people's status, whether they're online or not, for chatting.
You see their little pictures, right? Their little profile pictures.
Or you can go to a favorite view and you can sort of star people, and then you get to see them on the side. So you kind of have your friends and family staring at you as you browse.
Scary.
Yes. And then on the other side, you have sort of feeds. So you can have your Facebook feed, you can have your Twitter feed, you can have RSS feeds, and they look like little icons. And when you click on them, they pop open sort of the newest stuff that's going on from there.
It's nice. It sort of reminds me of a iPad app. Like, I'm not a big... I'd rather use extensions in my browser, like a Firefox extension or a Safari add-on or something along those lines, or a Chrome add-on, than go into a whole new browser experience.
But what do you use for Twitter?
I use an app. I use Tweety.
Why do you use an app?
Because I like the way it feels and functions. Although you do miss a few things. I think these kinds of like browsers would be awesome on an iPad, because when you're on an iPad, it's sort of like a different thing, and if you could bring all that together into an app on your iPad, I think that'd be great. But since I have this powerful laptop that can run my Tweety app in the background, and I can go to Facebook in a tab in my browser, and I could go here and I could go there. iPad, you want everything sort of within one app. That's just my take on it. But
yeah, I mean, I've only been playing.
It's what it is. It's new.
New is good.
New. You can play around. Rock melt.
Yeah, you have to be invited, and it's rather interesting. I mean, we've had discussions about mail being much more connected. Again, the Facebook. We actually haven't talked about it, but the Facebook connection, or the Facebook press release, that's, I think it's this week, might be tomorrow.
I think it's today. We're recording this on Monday. It should be maybe even out already.
So let's see if it's out.
Yeah,
real time.
The Facebook email client
that I predicted.
Yep. I guess an hour ago it looks like it was announced, wasn't it? We're very quiet. We shouldn't do that on a podcast. People are listening to me. You know, the one thing I don't really like is that the news is reporting it as a Gmail killer. And to me, that's a little ridiculous.
Let's talk about what it is and who is right, first of all.
Well, you were right. You called it. That's great. But why call it a Gmail killer when you can call it a email killer, or you can call it by some of the bigger email services out there killer, like Hotmail or Yahoo, who have far more users than Gmail. Like, I don't know why they're picking on Gmail, calling it a Gmail killer.
Oh, because Gmail is online.
So is Yahoo, so is Hotmail.
They don't need to be killed. No one makes a Zune killer anymore. You make an iPhone killer. Like, you go after the big dog.
But the big dog is not Gmail.
Yeah, for email it is.
Why? They don't have as many users as either of those services.
Of Yahoo or Hotmail?
Yahoo and Hotmail are twice as large as Gmail as far as users.
Are you sure about that?
Absolutely.
Active users.
Absolutely. They have 300-something million users. Gmail's not even at 200 million. So it's a little odd for me to see it being called a Gmail killer, but it is what it is, you know. I'm reading some of the bullet points right now.
So throw them out there.
And, you know, there are 350 million people actively using the messaging system on Facebook today.
Well, out of 500 million, that's a high percentage.
Right. More than 4 billion messages are sent through the Facebook messaging system each day. According to Mark Zuckerberg, the vast majority of these messages are one-to-one messages between users, not necessarily like a listserv style of message. The growth of the Facebook messaging service is growing at a much faster pace than Facebook's user base, meaning the user base isn't growing as fast as the people who are actually using the messaging service within Facebook. So people are really using this messaging service. So they're stressing that it's not email,
So what is it? Is it a client?
They're giving people an @facebook.com email address.
Ah.
And it's entirely optional for users who wish to sign up. The initial system is invite only to members of the press and will be tested over time. And essentially, they're saying it's more of a conversation history and social inbox, and that it's the biggest engineering team that Facebook has ever put together for a new product, which is 15 engineers, and they've been working on it for more than a year now, about 15 months. So 15 engineers working on it for 15 months, and what they most repeatedly said during the press conference and during the PR stuff is that it is not email. It is not email.
But you have an email address.
But you have an email address.
Does that mean I can email into it? Or people can email me there?
Not in my bullet points.
Oh.
But this is up to the minute news being broken on CloudFocus Weekly.
I'm coughing because it's such big news.
It's choking you up, I know.
I think it's interesting. Again,
if it's a real email address, I have to imagine you can email into it. But that leads to a lot of interesting things. Like, so now you can have people who aren't your friends on Facebook sending you messages on Facebook.
Right,
presuming that you can only access it through Facebook, because they have screenshots and it's a Facebook interface. It's within Facebook.com.
And I think until it becomes a non-Facebook interface, it's only, to me, it has so much. You make it so I have an IMAP account that I can put into my mail.app, and that has other sets of features, or you make it so feature rich, build in such incredible stuff that I want to use it, sort of like Gmail's doing with Priority Inbox. Like, Priority Inbox
is going to be the ultimate Priority Inbox, I feel.
Because it's only your friends.
It knows what you're doing. It knows what you read. It knows the things in your feed that you're clicking on. It knows.
But do you think Facebook is smart enough to do that? That's something that
I think
Google
they are.
does well. Facebook, I've never sensed that Facebook knows that does anything good with what I'm doing. It follows what I tell it to do, but it doesn't say.
I feel like they're just getting to the point where that power is going to be unleashed, and this could be a piece of it. Now, what's going to be interesting is going to be the email name grabs. Like, I want to go grab I have like the same email I never use them, but I have it.
Well,
at Hotmail,
have
at
you
AOL,
already grabbed
at
your
Yahoo, at all of them.
Have you already grabbed your Facebook name?
I have my name,
right,
but it's not my.
Why didn't you make it your?
I couldn't.
Oh.
Someone already had grabbed it.
So I don't think you got it. I think
it's going to be hard.
I
I think there's going to be a land grab, like domain names from 15 years ago. Like, it's going to be very interesting.
Well,
and Twitter is the same way. Like, people had to roll out like the official authenticated user. This is who they say they are type of thing for famous people.
Interesting stuff. Always late breaking here on CloudFocus.
Late breaking.
All right, well, let's get
we'll
to
have more on that maybe next week.
Absolutely. Let's get to our CloudFocus app pick of the week.
Rolls right off the tongue.
And I'll let you go first.
I always go first. So I'm picking a product from a company called Groundwire, who does some fantastic applications for the not-for-profit space. They have some very, very good products. They're always involved on the Google message board, the nonprofit Salesforce MPSF message board, or Google group, I should say, and always offering up advice and offering up tips, and they do some very interesting stuff. I'm going to pick this week. I'm going to pick Auctions for Salesforce. It's a product that they put together that allows you to, at an event that you're running, manage an auction. So if you are running a fundraiser or an appeal or any kind of event where you have invitees and campaign members within Salesforce, you can run an auction with items and manage, paddle numbers and how much people are paying for different things that are being auctioned off, and allowing you to do all the analytics around those types of things. It's a very good app. It's free for anyone to use, and not-for-profits. That's a great thing. It's free. Groundwire really does some great stuff for not-for-profits. I would recommend checking them out. You can find them on the App Exchange. Just search for Groundwire. You can also, like I said, find them on the Google group for the nonprofit Salesforce practitioners, and just pop it into your favorite search engine, maybe Bing them, and see all the good things that they're doing.
Nice one. Auctions for Salesforce by Groundwire. I'm going to pick a this is a social...
I'm shaking my head.
I know. Why? Not cloud enough for you?
Not cloud enough for me. You're always picking things that aren't cloud enough for me.
This is cloud enough, because I'll tell you why, because of the features.
Why.
So this is my reaction to...
You're also an Apple fanboy.
I am. You are too. You're the Salesforce fanboy.
I haven't picked one Apple product.
You have picked Force.com Labs every single time.
Love them. Go on.
So this comes from my tweet about Microsoft to the clouds, because they're basically showing me stuff that it's like, oh, you can edit photos to the cloud. That makes no sense. So I'm going to pick something that I think is a really good photo management software, something I've been using for years. It is available for the Mac, not available for the PC, and it's iLife. iLife 11 was announced a couple weeks ago, and in it, there's a lot of new features. They have new features for the GarageBand, which is their sort of music app. We actually record this in GarageBand, so like that. There's iMovie, which is for movie making. I'll tell you, I've made a few movies with it. It's amazing what you can do now in terms of just what my father, who's a television director and editor, had to do with reels and tape back in the day, and what you can now do with the power of the computer. But I'm going to talk about iLife, which has a couple new features I want to highlight. iPhoto. There's a new social widget. So you always could publish to Facebook, right? Publish to Facebook. But it felt very much like, oh, I'm just going one way to Facebook. Now, it's a two-way street to Facebook. So you say, I want to pick these photos. Great. You can tag them. Reads from your address book, and you can tag them. And then if that same person that you tag in iPhoto is on Facebook with the same name, it then tags them in Facebook as well. So it's actually figured out the tagging algorithm. That's cool.
That is cool.
And here's the best thing: when you publish it, you can create a album right in iPhoto, so you don't have to go and then create. Because that's one of the pains of Facebook. You have to go create an album and then upload your photos. You can do that all right in the iPhoto interface.
My mobile uploads folder is the biggest thing.
Right, because no one wants to create a new album.
No.
This one does. You can do it right there. You just drag and drop. It's easy. But here's the great thing: you publish it, and then as people comment on it, when you go back into the photos on iPhoto, you can see their comments.
It pulls the comments back in. That's cool.
So it's got some really neat things.
It's a very social episode of CloudFocus Weekly.
Very, very social. Should have named it something social. I did name it something social. So that's it. iLife. It's a $49 upgrade, which I think is a pretty good deal for basically.
What exactly are you getting all there in iLife? You're getting iPhoto.
You get iPhoto, GarageBand, and iMovie and iDVD. You get 4 apps for $50.
Not bad.
And if you just bought a new Mac, it comes like $6. And that's it. That's pretty much it. You can if you get the family edition, which allows you to install on like 5 computers, I think it's $75 or something like that. And then you can install on 5 computers. Then you're really getting your bang for your buck, right? If you have 3 or 4 computers at home, you're costing like $4 an app. You're down to iPhone app pricing.
To the clouds.
To the clouds. All right. So as always, you want to follow us, read our blog post. It's blog.arkusinc.com. You can subscribe by RSS using whatever your RSS reader is.
Or you can use Rockmelt.
You can. Twitter.com/ArkusInc is the company if you want to follow that. Twitter.com/JasonMAtwood if you want to follow me. Twitter.com/Justin Edelstein if you want to follow him. And we're on Facebook. Facebook.com/ArkusInc. We're also on iTunes for the CloudFocus podcast. So type in CloudFocus podcast, hit subscribe. You get the new episode whenever it comes out. Today we're recording on a Monday, which is unusual for us. But if you were waiting around till Thursday, you would have gotten it. If you subscribed on iTunes, good stuff. Leave a review there. We'd love to see a nice review. That would be great. But anyway, thank you for joining for this week in CloudFocus Weekly. Until next week, we will see you to the clouds.